Hello everyone, thank you for joining me for this tutorial. Today I have a project which I learned myself the other day, and that is how to make these origami kissing lips. Isn't that fun and adorable as well? This would be perfect for a Valentine's card or a birthday card, any occasion really, as in this case, thinking of you, which is how I'm thinking of you right now. Mwah. Stick with me and I'll show you how it's done. With the card base, and in this instance I'm making the card 5.5 by 5.5, so that means I've cut my cardstock to 11 inches and I'm going to score in the middle at 5.5. Didn't want to cut into a 12 by 12 sheets, and I just thought 5 was just a bit smaller than what I really wanted, so I made a compromise by cutting this to 11 by 5.5. Okay, now for this card I'm going to use a mat which I've already got cut here, and I only want a very tiny bit of that white showing, so I cut this at 5 3/8 by 5 3/8, and it's a not really heavy cardstock, or paper I should say, so I'm not going to gut the inside of it out in this instance, and I've got a bit of this anyway, so I'm not too terribly concerned about being frugal with it. So I'm just going to glue this down to the front of the card, and as I said, I want to just leave a very tiny border. There we are. And then what I'm going to do is build it up in the middle with other layers. Like this one, for instance, is 5 by 5. I wanted this one a little bit, cut a little bit smaller so that I could see more of the pink underneath. So put this in place. And whatever size you want to make, it's up to you. There are no hard set rules. So I'm going to put that again central to this card base. That glue, which is the Kalal liquid glue, gives me a little bit of wiggle room, but will also dry very, very solid. So I'm going to actually push it so that the glue, in fact there's a little bit that came out there, but that will rub off. We'll go to the edges and keep that stuck in place. So there we are. So that's the beginnings of our card. It's relatively simple because the impact of this card is going to be on the inside, which we'll get to later. So this, I've decided to top it with this sentiment, and it's thinking of you. This is just from a free download, and I'll show you how I do this very often. Now this is, I mean, it's about 160 GSM, so it's got a good weight to it, but it doesn't really have as much weight as I would like for the front of my card, because I want to put it on a dimensional. So what I do is, normally I'll just, let's cut that off, take and either tape it down, or in this case just glue it to a piece of scrap cardstock, and this is the same cardstock I use for the card base. Just put it on there. Give it just a moment to take hold, and I'll take my scissors out and I'll cut around it. And I am not brilliant at cutting, so especially on curves, but I will do my best and I'll show you how I do this. I just come here with long scissors and follow around. Now what the trick is to actually turn the card rather than the scissors as much as possible. So I'm just going to go slowly to show you how I do that. The other thing I do is I rest the blade on my fingers beneath, because that helps to keep it steady. And also, one final tip is to try and keep your eye on where you're going, not where you are. So as I come up to this corner here, or this curve, I want to keep that in my eye level. And I will come around. And as I said, it's not going to be perfect, but I have one other little trick to help disguise any cutting mistakes. You can go back and trim off as much as you need later. And really, these are handmade cards, so they're not meant to be perfect. And there we go. And that's not actually too bad of a job. It's when I have circles that I really have problems for some reason. But I'll show you what I do here. I have these inks, which I'm just going to pull this one out. And I could take a dauber or a brush of some sort, but I'm just going to take the pad itself and ink around the edges, because this is sort of a shabby chic piece. It doesn't really matter if it kind of comes up over the edges, but that will disguise the white underneath and also any imperfections in the cutting. So there is our sentiment topper ready to put in place. Give this a little bit of dimension with some foam tape I have here. This is on a roll. I have others that are in squares, all sorts of things I pick up, but it's all the same. This is about, I think this is about 2 mil, yes. So I want to put that on the back, and I can actually cut this down a bit and fill in these little gaps here. Take off the backing, which will reveal the sticky part. And something else that I usually do, not always, but very often, is I give myself a little bit of wiggle room and also a little bit of added security by adding a dab or two of glue. This could be like a white PVA glue, or in this case, like Kalau. And I can set it down where I want it. I could have it up here, I could have it at the bottom. I'll tell you what, let's go here. And just kind of rest it there till you know where you want it. And then press it into place. And I still have room here if I wanted to put something else here, maybe a ribbon or some sequins or pearls. I can decide that later. So now we're going to move on to the inside. I've cut these two pieces, which are the same as the mat I used on the outside as far as size goes, and that is 5 3/8 by 5 3/8, because again, I want just that little bit of border, and I want to give this a chance to actually fold without catching the paper and cracking it. So I'm going to put these sides down. There is the matting done for the inside of the card, and I'm going to set this aside because now we're going to work on the kissing lips that are going to go inside. For our lips, we've got this piece which is 6 by 6. It's just was already cut that size, so I just left it at that. But what you want to do is make sure you start with a square piece of paper, so whatever size you want, and you want it to have a contrast. In this case, I didn't have any thin enough paper. This is 120 GSM with another pattern on the back, so I just went with the white because I did try gluing it together, but it was just getting way too bulky, and with origami you need your paper actually to be rather thin. So I'm going to start by placing this on the diagonal, and with the colored side or the lip color side up, take it and fold it in half on the diagonal here, so you have this triangle. And let's see if I can get that to better match there. There we go. Okay, that's our first fold. Now, the rest of the folds will all be done in pairs. So, you want to take this end here, this point here, and fold it over to about 2/3 of the way across. And the same with this one. And an easy method to determine where you want that to happen, because it's going to essentially be sort of in this area here, so it looks like an envelope. You can take your paper, turn it, and just sort of make this little Z or S shape, whichever you call it, and sort of figure out where those points are going to be. So you can see that you're reasonably sure that that's about right. You just put a little bit of a crease there, because you'll know then where to fold it. So open it back up, and you can see that it's coming up to these, to where that peak is now coming down in a line. Come across. Before I actually fold it or burnish it down, I'm going to make sure I've got this where I want it to be, so that I get that. Just take this in a bit. This is really heavier than I probably would like, but it will work. Okay, there we are. We see now our little envelope shape. I'm going to take my bone folder and go there. Just keep that in place. This I can fold down. This is going to come into play as we get to the very end. So we just need a crease mark there. We can fold that up out of the way. The next thing is to take either side. You can take this side or you can take this side. What you do is you take and fold it up so that this peak meets that one. This one, this little point here, is going to go to that point there. You see you've got a triangle. Okay, and guess what? You're going to do the same on this side. That point to that point, and they will meet there in the middle. Okay, so we've got that so far. Next, take this point and fold it back down on itself. So now you're going in the opposite direction, down to this corner here. And see, I'm just moving it till I get it where I want it. burnish it down a bit. Same with this one. Okay. And now we have this. Next, take either side again and fold it back up so that it's parallel with that crease mark. There's this crease mark here. You're going to take this and fold it up. And as you'll see, it makes like a little paper airplane. The little wings coming off the side. Do the same on this side. Come up to that line and make your little airplane. Now, a trick to help you determine where to fold on the other side is to just take this and take that little point, come down to this point. So this point down to here, and that will give you a little triangle as a guide, more or less, to fold on the other side. And do the same on this one. You don't have to do this. You can just wing it. When you get to the other side, that's fine. So there we are. So we have this. Now take it and open it up and turn it over. You see here, you've got all these little folds. I'm going to work from the white side now. Before we had the pink or the colored side up, and now we're going to work from the white side with it up. Here's that little fold I made before, that little peak, so just makes it a lot easier once that's in place. And here are the other crease marks. You've got a crease mark here and a crease mark here. Those are guides for where you want to push that up and just crease along it and let it go. And crease along that one and let it go. Because these keep your little peak up, peak folded over I should say. And now take these two together, and you see it makes sort of a little V there. That's what you want. Those are going to be the corners of your mouth. Do the same on this side. Fold it up. Fold along those crease marks. Let them go. You just want to get them so that they can be manipulated a bit easier. And then just fold the whole thing up till you get that little peak. You've got your point going inwards, and then you've got this little V. I hope you're with me so far. Now, you want to take this and I'm just going to start working that in. Take it to the other side. And fold along these fold lines here, these crease lines. You've got these that are coming into a peak as well, which are right under where the lip is. This here and this here. You just take your fingers and start to push those so that they give those lips a little more shape, and draw, start to work. Now as you see, push it down, those lips are beginning to take form. The next thing is to take these two sides and fold them back in. So you've got that folded in, and you've got this folded in. Now in traditional origami with this design, the thing to do would be to take this and fold it like that, so that you had something to pull on the lips and get them to open and close. But since we're putting this in a card, we're going to actually fold these back. So we've got that line there again, which is our guide to where to fold these to. And then just going to sort of push that till I get it where I want it. And just get that into place. Let's do the same on this side. And ready to put it into our card. What we're going to do is glue one side first and then the other. So here, determine where we want it to go. And I'm going to combine both double-sided tape and my liquid glue. Got some double-sided tape here, which I'm just going to put down here, and I'm going to take the bone folder and make sure that the adhesive is spread out. You can see my lips are spreading here, and that's fine. That's how you want it to be. Take off the carrier sheet on the back. Alright, one more. And then I'm going to go along, especially the edges, with my liquid glue. Give it a little more security, because this is going to get opened and closed, hopefully, quite a bit. So I'm going to go around, and I'll go in the middle as well. And once I have it placed in here on that crease, you can just simply put it in. And that looks about right. And I can push that down. Push it from both sides. Open this side up and do the same thing on this side. Now open it up, and there are lips. Aren't they gorgeous? Now that would be the nice thing about having the same matching paper here, but I can live with that. And I could even color in this if I wanted to, but I don't think there's really a lot of need for that. We can go around it with a border. But as you can see, our lips were thinking of you. Muah. Could sing a little song as well. And there you have your origami kissing lips in a card. I have just an ordinary glitter gel pen. These were, I think, like 99p maybe. And I am going to go in and give these lips a little bit of pizzazz. There we are. It's not perfect, but I think you get the idea. It's definitely not up to Jeffree Star standards, or Revlon for that matter. And I could have used glossy accents, as I said, but then that would mean, you know, leaving it open overnight to dry, and I don't trust myself not to put my finger in it or for my cat to scurry across. So I'm just going to leave it at that, just to give you the idea of our little lips. And again, give her one more try, thinking of you, and mwah, that's how much I think of you. Thanks for joining me for this tutorial. I think it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed learning how to do it and showing you how to do it as well. And I hope you'll join me on my next video. Thanks for coming. Bye and crafty hugs.